Hello, I'm speaking today about Connections, a small project putting wired telephones and free Wi-Fi at locations around Seattle. Poor folks generally, and unhoused folks in particular, often have very intermittent access to both phone calls and the internet. The first Trump administration nearly ended the Lifeline Cellular Access Program, so while folks may have a phone, they may not have minutes or data. Landline telephones don't need minutes. They're also effective to connect people with services if they desire. More on that later. Internet access is ubiquitous at physical locations since we need it for, well, everything, but people don't share it because it can be scary or hard, both digital security-wise and technically. Connections is a box that plugs into your internet and solves all these problems at once. Sound interesting? Let's continue. First, who am I? I'm Brendan O'Connor. I'm a sandals-loving hacker living here in South Seattle. My day job is working for a tech company, not Microsoft or Amazon. But more importantly, I'm the host of LiftC, which is a kiosk of sorts providing zines, art, Narcan, charging, native seeds, and a huge number of necessities other than food here in South Seattle. We've been doing this since August 2024, and we're glad to be part of a real community here. We also try new things to help our neighbors and see if they're useful. For instance, with the help of UW Lil Labs, we handed out free lead tests for several months since this part of Seattle has a disproportionately high amount of lead contamination. LiftC also hosts the first Futel phone in Seattle. Futel is a collective based in Portland that sets up free landline phones in Portland and elsewhere. Across their 24 current phones, they handle several thousand successful outbound calls per month. They also provide free voicemail services and access to telephone-mediated art and live human operators. LiftC used to have the only Futel phone in Seattle, but Connections has expanded that to 3 so far. Futel describes itself as the fastest growing public telephone company in the United States, and we're delighted to help them. Like a lot of the best ideas at LiftC, this idea came from the people who rely on us. We've had a few telephones since our very beginning, but usage really picked up when we added pamphlets from Crisis Connections that give contact information and screening requirements for organizations providing services like shelter, food, and support systems. People started using the phone to call shelters. This past spring, people started asking for Wi-Fi access, and I thought, wait, we should be able to do that. So, does this help anyone? Well, in September 2025, LiftC had more than a call per day, and Dunlop had more than 2 per day. Estelita's phone is only a week old, and the aid site is still being built out, but the Wi-Fi is getting used already. We find that people are calling friends and loved ones to stay in touch, and if they wish to, they're also able to take the Crisis Connections brochures and reach out for assistance. So, this doesn't solve everything, no one thing can, but this is helping people right now. What's it look like? On the left is a Connections box, and on the right is one of our phones. Admittedly, these are bad photos of a light gray box and of a phone living in a birdhouse, but that's really the whole trick. It's a waterproof box we can lock and attach to something, with power and Ethernet going in and a phone cord coming out that runs to a standard phone that I tend to place in a birdhouse to keep the rain off. This works in Seattle, and it's been working for more than a year. Inside the waterproof box, there are 2 main electronic devices, a router and access point, and the thing that connects a phone to the internet. The great part is that these are extremely well-tested, robust devices. They don't need a lot of hand-holding, and they're not particularly expensive. The landline phones are the AT&T trimline phones you and everyone else had in the 90s. The router is last generation, and the ATA, the thing that connects the phone to service, is a thing that most people who had Vonage are trying to unload. The upshot is that this is all eBayable, but cost-effective and reliable. So here's the pitch. I would like to build these Connections nodes and install them, along with some Crisis Connections pamphlets wherever possible, anywhere people are willing to host them and where people in need might stop by. Aid stations, community centers, free pantries, anywhere you think is a good idea is probably a great idea. As a host, here's what you'd be giving to people. Voice phone access to anyone, internet access to anyone who has any wireless device, and optionally, but I would recommend this, brochures to connect support resources to people who want them. No barriers, no preaching, no gates, just helping people. It's not enough, but it's more than nothing. What I will provide. I'll provide the hardware. Along with my friends at Futel and Northwestern Telephone and Telegraph, I'll provide the configuration. I'll do the installation, and I'll also make approximately bi-weekly checks to make sure that all is well, the Wi-Fi works, the phones work, that sort of thing. What this would need from you, a tiny bit of power, a way to get a cable from your internet connection to the box. I'll even run the cable for you. And finally, I'd ask that if you see something is broken, you let me know so that I can fix it. Pretty simple. So let's answer a few reasonable questions. First, what does this cost? Well, if you're a Seattle Community Fridge host, nothing at all. For anyone else, it's $15 per month just to cover the costs that Futel has providing service to the phone. I'll donate all the hardware to get everything connected because I enjoy working with it. I also do the electronic maintenance, running software updates and the like. Though if you're a tech person who wants to be involved with that, let me know and I'll happily include you. Do the phones get damaged? My experience has been that it's very rare. Futel phones in Portland sometimes suffer damage because they just look like old payphones in the city. But the phones we've been installing here in Seattle are more clearly part of a hosted project like LiftC, a Seattle Community Fridge, or other things. They don't look like giant corporate things. The phones live in birdhouses, and so they blend into and are part of their neighborhoods. The electronics box is just really boring looking and usually out of the way. Thus far, nearly nobody ever messes with it. I try to swing by each phone every couple of weeks to make sure all is well, but hosts can also email me so I come more quickly to fix things. I mentioned earlier that it can be unsafe to share Wi-Fi with unknown guests, both because they might mess with your other devices on your network, or because they might grab copyrighted stuff and make your ISP send you a mean letter. We solve that for you. First, the router is configured so that guest Wi-Fi traffic never touches your network at all. We set up a special tunnel from the connections router to our friends at NTNT, and it's not possible for it to mess with your network, or for you to mess with our guest traffic. Second, NTNT, as an internet service provider itself, doesn't deal with copyright issues the way that your residential ISP does. So if someone does something naughty, we simply ask them to stop should we encounter them. It doesn't go back to your ISP and cause nasty letters to you. So that's my pitch. I'd love to help expand phone and Wi-Fi access all over Seattle to help the poor, the unhoused, or anyone in need. And if you also think this is a neat idea, I'd love to talk about installing this at your site. Please write to me with questions, comments, concerns, or yes, you'd love to do this at info@lifc.us. That's info@lffc.us. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.